person, and you have your very own way of conducting, and I'm very interested in knowing more about you and your style, your way, the way you think things. So why don't you start by telling a bit about you and your technique?
Okay.
Cool.
So I'll start by saying I'm a drummer, and I played drums. I played drums professionally for almost 30 years, and especially in the 90s, I was active touring and had a lot of musical experiences that shaped a lot of what I did the last 20 years with Everyone Orchestra. But drumming is where I kind of cut my teeth on composition, on performance, on band dynamics, on improvisational interplay, and all kinds of stuff. And then after I was, I'll even back up another step. I'm in Portland, Oregon, on the West Coast in the United States. And I've lived all up and down the West Coast since the 90s. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, but I went to school in San Diego, was in Seattle, kind of right when the grunge scene was happening, Nirvana, all that craziness. And my band Djembe that was the band that I was touring with a ton back then. But when Djembe wrapped up, I went into a state of just deep experimental discovery. I was trying all different types of stuff. I tried to be a singer-songwriter. I auditioned for Stomp, and I almost auditioned for Blue Man as well, but I realized I just wasn't cut for more of a corporate type of creative gig. I think it would have kind of killed my soul. I know it's been really good for a few friends of mine, but it wasn't for me. And then I was facilitating drum circles. And I was also hosting an open mic. And the hosting of the open mic and the drum circles were really pinnacles for stepping into conducting in a lot of ways, because I realized the role of facilitator was really important. And there was a certain point in doing a drum circle that I was just wondering, why not incorporate all the variables of music and song composition in the context of a drum circle? Like the conductor could be conducting instruments that could do chordal changes, vocalists that could come up with the lyrics on the fly and that sort of thing. And so that really was kind of where that kind of came together. And the first Everyone Orchestra was in 2001, New Year's Eve. So it's my 20th anniversary this New Year's Eve coming up. For the first thank you. For the first 5 or so years, I actually didn't conduct. I hired other people to conduct. I was the drummer. I was stuck in drum mode. It was great, but then I started to invite some of my favorite, most popular drummers around in the US, and they were wanting to be a part of it. And I did some great double drumming gigs, but I realized, well, I didn't stop drumming because all the great drummers were there. I stopped drumming because I saw something that the people I was hiring to conduct, an opportunity that they were missing. And the opportunity that I saw was to compose music that could feel as composed as something that's rehearsed, but still be completely steeped in improvisation. And it could be beautiful. It could be subtle. It doesn't have to be funky. It doesn't have to be chaotic. It doesn't have to be, it could be just totally spontaneous improvisation that's facilitated and conducted, but all of a sudden we have, a beautiful song with the verse and chorus that just can kind of come together. And I've been like holding steady to that vision ever since, of, bringing different lineups of musicians together, roughly 150 to 200 a year now, almost for the last 15 years. and kind of, co-creating songs through this process of, everyone orchestra and conducting.
Yeah, man.
So that's the basic.
Uh-huh. And sounds very interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting story. And well, you developed your very own way of conducting with signs and gestures. And I would like to can you talk a bit about
sure.
your technique and
I was facilitating drum circles, so that was kind of part of my conducting beginnings. I got invited to be part of this thing called Zambiland Orchestra in Atlanta, Georgia in 97, I think. Might have been 96, I'm not sure. And Zambiland Orchestra was this annual event. At that time, it was just happening once a year and put on by Jeff Sipe, better known as Apartment Q213, an amazing drummer and friend. It was a large-scale collaborative concert. There would be maybe 4 drum sets, 14 percussionists, 11 bass players, 5 guitars, or 12 guitars, 3 keyboardists. It was just like massive. I think there was like 70 something people on stage, and not just like a bunch of vocalists, but like instrumentalists, just like huge. And the conductor, and I'm so bad with names, I'm forgetting his name. It's big inspiration, but he used these giant key cards. And if you have 70 people that are jamming together, just going from C to F, it's spiritual. It's just amazing. If they're all doing it at the same time in a crazy groove, it's just amazing. So that was the first time that I experienced somebody using signs to direct traffic. Now, I use signs, and like I said, I hired conductors for the first about 5 years using signs. And then we started using dry erase boards because I used to spend some time like flipping through the cards, looking for the right card. And it was like, when you're composing in the moment, you want to be, that's why all these improv conductors have signals. So they have an idea, they can just make the signal, the thing about the dry erase board that's so great is that it's so blatant. You can so easily just write the key on it and show people and go 1, 2, 3, 4 and do it. And there's no guessing. It's not too heady. You don't have to take a class to learn how to do it if you are a musician that has good listening skills and, conceptually have the basics, of what I'm after. So yeah, the dry erase board, I'll write anything from key changes to styles to tempos. Usually I just count a tempo in. I'm doing a lot of air drumming, and all kinds of stuff. So, and then, we make lyrics up in the spot, and sometimes I'll sing lyrics, but other times I'll have vocalists. They'll come up with lyrics. I have a signal for chorus, for verse. And, basically once we get a chorus, then I can take the band someplace different. And then I can be like, let's go back to the chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll go back to the chorus, and the vocalists know that they're going to sing what they just created. And really the only difference between the chorus and verse in my signals is just the verse is more of a storytelling time, and the chorus is something that we can harmonize on.
Okay.
That's the basic gist of it. It's not like a John Zorn, encyclopedia of rules and instructions and stuff. I have some basic, I have a primer that I send to musicians and stuff, but it's really about being present and about arriving on stage with the expectation to create something with the group and to play. Everyone gets to play different roles. Part of my intent is for everybody to shine in an everyone orchestra, to like bring out the best of what they do, to give everybody kind of an opportunity. And then also to get the audience involved. And that's the other thing that is really important for me. And it started off like with just kind of like, back and forth chaos, like a rumble type of thing, like a screaming and punches for the band, screaming punches with the band, which is fun. But when you start to get composing a beautiful song and you have a chorus, you know, that by the second time, the audience is singing with you. And I turn to the audience, I get them to sing, and I bring the band way down. And then the audience is kind of like in the forefront of everything. I'm getting kind of tingles thinking about this, but that's the moment where the third wall is gone and we've created this thing that we all are in, you know? And I'm going for that moment again and then. I'm harvesting that moment is what my intent.
Yeah, man. Nice. Yeah, very interesting. And I catch up some words that you throw here. You used the word real-time compose, and also you used the word as to make people shine, to make people, you know. And how do you see the role of the conductor, the person who is, you know, is he a composer, or is he some moderator for the artist?
It's a little bit of everything, because there are certain times when I'm like, all right, we're gonna end 3, 4, we're done, you know. And other times I'm like, I'm going with the band. The band is driving it. I'm just facilitating, and I'm waiting to hear an idea. I'm like, wow, let's like, you know, that drum or that guitar piece, let's like I want to like bring that out, you know, and have them like repeat that, you know. So I'll have them kind of acknowledge it. So I'll be like, I'm facilitating in the sense that I'm like a attenuator for the group jam, you know. So it's a give and take. And as long as, and I don't arrive to the stage with an agenda of like to run the band through any kind of, I don't know what's going to happen, except I want it to be dynamic. I want the musicians to have a great time. I want it to have the show to have a variety of tempos, you know, kind of styles, and to be like a nice arc, like from beginning, middle to end. Like I feel like it has like an arc. And I often start, not every show, but a lot of shows, I just start with funk in A, because it's like it's just a groove and everybody can get adjusted to what's going to happen. And then I can do some really basic moves. I mean, sometimes I met people like 20 minutes before they got on stage. Like on festivals, I'm always bringing like a perfect scenario is I've got like 5 players that have done it before and like 4 that have never done it. And so we've got this mix and of like fear and excitement from the new people, and like excitement and, you know, oh, I'm going to do Everyone Orchestra again from the old people. And then together there's this kind of energy, you know? So that first song's got the kind of what's going to happen, how are we going to do this, you know, and get everybody on the same page, and then just kind of go from there.
That's cool, man. Yeah. And this you kind of answered my next question, but I will gonna do it again so
Yeah.
you can develop it, because I lots of music I've heard about your music. It sounds very funky, very groovy, very, you know.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to ask you if this is intentional. And
I mean, like I said, I start a lot of the shows with funk in A because it's just a really easy, inclusive. It's like a sound check song, and it's always amazing how, even though it's funk in A, it's always different, which is cool. You know, I definitely, you know, like the album that you were listening to, that's on Spotify. You know, it's a funky group, basically. It's a real funky group, and whatever the lineup is for whatever show really dictates how the music sounds and what happens. So, you know, there's definitely some shows that are less funky than others. And I wouldn't call Everyone Orchestra a funk band, but it's a fun place to at least be for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And
but you know what? I'll say this, like groove, I'm all about groove. Like, okay. I definitely am a groove guy. I'm a drummer. I like to make people dance. I feel like the community aspect of dancing is like it makes me feel alive. right? That's kind of like my role. I've been told that as a drummer for many years, you know, it's like, so it brings people together. So I would say it's definitely groove-based improvisation. You know, sometimes it can be a real slow, you know, ballad type of thing, but other times it can be like a kind of a tribal mix too. You know, it can be a little bit of everything.
Yeah, man. Outstanding. Yeah. And it's surely, you can surely see that in your video, in your music. And I suppose that because you have this board that you can erase, dry erase.
Yeah, and I use an iPad now.
iPad, okay.
I use both.
Okay, so I suppose you have kind of limitless options to do on stage, because you can mostly write anything you want. Like, you know, I don't know, but do you have a preferred directives that you use the most, or that you like the most?
I have a bunch of like instructions or directives that you described in my iPad that are kind of ones that I use again and again, and they're easier to read on the iPad from a far distance. And the dry erase boards are for on the spot quick things that aren't in the iPad already. And but a lot of what happens is I'll have somebody start something. Like, all right, I'm gonna have a guitarist start something, and he'll play a progression, and everybody's just listening, and we just kind of let it kind of grow organically, and then I'll call a soloist, and that's kind of the organic way that it'll kind of grow, and then I'll be like, all right, let's unison with this soloist on a lick, and he'll play a lick, and everybody will be unison in it, you know, and then I'll be like a whole step up, and you know, so I have quite a few tricks that I use again and again, but they come off differently, you know, depending on the way that people pull them off, you know? So, but it is constantly always expanding, and it's always expanding with the type of musician that's a part of it.
Interesting. Yeah. I would like to know if you have a secret sauce for, you know, a nice and interesting performance, something that that what's making the performance on fire.
You know, it's all about contrast. Like, if the whole show is one tempo or just kind of one kind of feel, I try to contrast it so it mixes it up, and that's what I think makes a good arc, right? So I have some progressions in my side pocket to use. Like, I'll throw out a progression to create something that, you know, if I feel like we need something that's kind of softer, it's a jumping off point to something that's soft. You know, again, it's not a rehearsed type of thing, but to me, I know that, you know, we just came from 3 really heavy rocking songs. We need something that's just going to kind of chill and be a little bit ambient or something, you know? So I'll pull that together. But it's interesting because sometimes, you know, whether it's a 60-minute or a 90-minute set, a lot of times I'll do a 2-set show, and it's all, what I call it is it's a blossom from the beginning to end. Everybody is kind of getting more comfortable, more in tune with each other, and they're starting to be more connected with me, and I have the feeling like I can conduct faster if we need to. You know, as a group, we can make more nimble moves, you know? So it's kind of blossoming, like from the beginning to the end, I call it. And, you know, but sometimes it's like, we're like 45 minutes in and we just had the most epic jam. I don't know what to do next. It's like, I need, you know, it's like I need like some wasabi or something to clean my palate, to like shake my stuff up, shake it up and like start, you know, figure out what's next. Cause, you know, all I'm thinking of is a jumping off point, whether I'm asking the band to start something or I'm asking one of the musicians to start something. So yeah. Jam
Yeah, man.
Cruise.
That's
I just saw somebody said
fantastic.
Jam Cruise.
Oh, so
You know, I have one more. I want to add one thing. You know, an element that's
yeah.
really important in my whole concept, and this was kind of in my mission statement from the beginning, was community. And it was to create something that I can invite all my friends to play, but they don't have to join a band or go on tour with me in a van or something. But I can continue to like build these relationships in these shows. And, you know, when musicians get on stage and have this incredible musical experience, they bond. And there's been a lot of friendships built in Everyone Orchestra. And that's one of the things that is most fun and invigorating for me about it.
Yeah, you can definitely see that when you watch your content online, and it seems that you are a very positive person. You are very, you know, always happy, always wanting people to be happy, to play. That what it looks like when I see your
Yeah.
videos of you conducting. And I would like to know if you ever got frustrated on stage, or, you know, do you think that something something can go wrong, and what can go wrong on stage that it makes you feel frustrated?
I've had a few musicians get too drunk.
Okay.
So, you know, that can be frustrating because, or the audience is too kind of tired out of their mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, late night at a festival and everyone's just like, ooh, you know, so it's kind of like, oh, I realized when I turn the audience to conduct, they're not responsive in that sense. They're just kind of in their heads, like grooving. So that can be kind of frustrating sometimes. You know, I mean, if the sound isn't good and people can't hear each other, we can't do it right. That's my biggest fear, the biggest, you know, the biggest challenge. If we can't hear each other well, then it's hard to pull off. And other than that, I feel like I have a track record with all the musicians that I work with where, you know, I don't get frustrated with people's performance because there's no mistakes. There's only opportunities in this. And everybody always, there's something innate in the concept that if you're not kind of giving it your all, or if you're not really bringing your heart to the table, to the stage, or if you're not open to what these other musicians are playing, it's kind of like you're putting an advertisement for yourself out there that you're not that, that it's an advertisement for yourself that you're uncomfortable or something, you know, it stands out and nobody wants to stand out. So so everybody gives it their all, you know, and I feel like that's kind of the beautiful thing about it. Like so many people surprise me and themselves in it.
Totally agree,
sense?
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Positive. Yeah. And that brings me to something that I would like to ask you, which is
plug this in.
You play a lot, man. I've seen your schedule. You have a lot of gigs. So my question was, how do you manage to organize your gigs? Because I've seen that you play a lot. You do a lot of shows.
I'm very lucky. I have a great team that I work with. I have a manager. His name is Chris Perella, and he's one of the owners of the Ardmore Music Hall in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And he has an incredible team of people that work with him that, you know, he books a number of clubs. He helps run, or he's part owner in some restaurants too. And his team helps me with all of my marketing also. So, okay. And I also have an amazing partner in the audio technical side of thing named Todd Kushner, who records and videos as many shows as he can possibly be at, and is kind of my partner in crime in creating all the media that we do. And we just released a bunch of shows on Nugsnet and doing stuff like that. So, you know, it's interesting from a music business standpoint. Everyone Orchestra is it's very laborious because if a lot of bands they make a record, then they go on tour and play the record, and the booking agent just wants to book 80 dates, you know, in these 4 months or whatever, and this is the band, they're available, and they just book them away, you know. And with Everyone Orchestra, you know, we'll do a 3-show run with a lineup, but then the next weekend it's a completely different lineup. So it's every time we do it, it's almost like a mini festival.
Right.
And I just, you know, I've had many opportunities to kind of change the concept or kind of bend it a little bit, and a lot of, you know, but really the community aspect of bringing the different musicians together is really what this is all about, and why it continues, and why, like, what makes it so beautiful and powerful and spiritual for me kind of makes it laborious in the business sense, you know. So there's definitely a labor of love, and I feel very, very blessed that I've been able to carve, you know, a little bit of a niche, you know, musical career out of it, basically. And I have a great team that believes in me, and, you know, there's other aspects to this concept that brings a lot of joy and a lot of friendships and a lot of like really moments of, I would just consider it like living my best life, or other people living their best life, having these experiences. And while it doesn't always like turn into money, it turns into this great community that's having this incredible things that's sustained it for this many years, you know? So here we go. I can't believe it's been going almost 20 years. I always at the end of the show, I say it's a dream come true, you know?
That's fantastic, man. And I totally agree. And I love the way you put this community thing, because I truly believe that the conducted improvisation is definitely a social practice that you do with lots of people, and that's the point of doing that. I totally agree with you. Is it great, man? And something that someone also wrote here, Jam Cruise, and I know you produce this thing, and it sounds very fun. How is this? How did this happen?
Well, I don't produce Jam Cruise. I've played on it for 13 years. And it's, you know, it's ridiculously fun to be trapped on a ship with amazing musicians and my family. It's like, it's an incredible time. You know, Everyone Orchestra it's usually a 5 or 6 day event, and Everyone Orchestra does a show at the last day. And everyone's really tired by the last day. And it's like, but it's kind of like church. It's like the way, and it's earlier in the day, it's in this grand theater, and it's always a very large orchestra. And it's like that particular show is always kind of emotional, because everybody's so revved up and jamming for so many days that by the time we get to the EO set, it's kind of profound, and there's always people crying and shit. It's great, like in a good way, you know. It's like it just feels spiritual and beautiful. So Jam Cruise is an amazing thing. You know, I do this other thing. What I was just down in Argentina doing a site visit for, called the IGE Music and Art Immersion, and I help produce that, and I perform in it. And we've put on events in Venice, Italy, in Barcelona, in Lisbon, Portugal, and we're scheduled for Prague this October, and we've got Buenos Aires and Budapest, Hungary, all kind of lined up, and where we're doing like 10 days of shows and events in one location, bringing about 20 musicians from the US and performing all around town and all different types of venues, churches, theaters, you know, places that you wouldn't expect music, but are just incredibly, you know, ancient and unique. So that's kind of my other love, is this music, and then bringing in all the local musicians to jam with. So maybe we could do it in Brazil someday. I'd love to do it, because, you know, we're going to do it in Argentina. You know, I'm not sure when right now, because we're in this stasis of kind of waiting to see how much interaction we'll have, you know, after this. But that's the plan.
Yeah, man, sure. If you're gonna go to Brazil, please count on me. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That sounds very fun. Yeah. And well, one more thing that I know about you is that you have collaborated with so many great musicians from, you know, from, and a lot of them are from rock music, from, you know, from popular music. And I think it's because you look for the community building, and I admire this a lot. And but I would like to ask you, how do you choose the people who play with you, and how do those people get to you? You know, how do they get to know you, and how do you choose people who play with you?
So, good question. Everyone comes to me in a different way. I mean, since I've been playing music professionally for so many years, I have a lot of friends, just close friends that are in the business that have been playing in bands. A lot of the bands that my band Jam Bay played with in the 90s are some of the biggest bands in the jam band world here in the US these days. So, and then the other way is that, like I described, my perfect mix is some players that have done it before and some players that haven't done it before. Sometimes somebody will send me an email and I'll be like, hey, we're going to be playing in, you know, Saratoga, New York next week. Send me some links. We need a vocalist, you know. And it just turns out that this person is good and knows one other person that was, let's go for it, you know. So there's a little bit of randomness that happens. There's a lot of friends of friends. You know, anybody that's interested, I just say, send me an email and let me see your stuff. And then it's kind of like, you know, if I'm going to be near you and we're doing an everyone orchestra, let me know and I'll see if I have room or if we're looking for a certain type of player or something, because that's the only way I can do it at this point, you know. You know, some of the events that we're doing are like a yearly event. So we've kind of built like a team there, and we kind of go build the team, you know, each year a little bit differently, but there's a core that might do it every year. But some of these runs that we're doing are, you know, I try to grab a few people that have done it before and a few people that haven't done it before. So that's kind of the equation.
But do you rehearse with them?
No.
No rehearsal at all.
Sound check. That's it.
That sounds awesome, man. Sounds very funny. I wanna join in one of your everyone orchestras.
What's your main instrument?
I'm saxophone player.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Sure, dude.
So, and can you share? Would you share a story that you bring in your heart, something that you like a lot to remember, or something that happened to you, and you bring as your practice, something that enlightened you as a conductor?
That's a good question. Well, I'll talk about my outfit for a second, because I haven't really seen this yet with other conductors. I know that there's the Go Organic Orchestra. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that one?
Adam Rudolph.
Yes, he wears a nice kind of a Indian style kind of smock, or I don't know what you call it, but he has like an outfit. I used to conduct just wearing my regular clothes, right? And I ran into some people having like almost violent reactions to what I was doing. They were like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, why is his back to the audience? We need to throw this guy out. The band is like, doesn't want it. They didn't know. They didn't understand what was happening. And the minute we put art on my back and I put a hat on, like something's happening. Like it's this, just expect something unique. It changed everybody's perspective and way for the better. And so ever since then, I have about 10 outfits. And, that is a really important part of me showing up on stage, is to have that kind of expectation of like ridiculous humor and possible spirituality all in the same moment.
That's a good insight, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I like the way you think. Yes. And well, one last question I have for you before we open for public questions.
Sure.
Is I know you have recorded on studio already because I
Yeah.
was hearing here. And then it, I would like to know if when you are recording an improvisation, do you believe that the output must be a faithful recording of what happened? Or can you, you know, edit over the, you know, create something
So
else after
it's
the
a good
recording is
question.
done?
You know, every live performance that's recorded is just what it is,
Okay.
right? So when I've only done one studio project with Everyone Orchestra, and I'd like to do more, and I will do more. But when I entered the studio for Brooklyn sessions, I wanted to be able to utilize the studio, the concept in the studio for what the studio is, and have some flexibility with what we did in there. And basically what we did is I conducted jams for 2 days. And some of the jams, you know, we'd do a jam and I'd stop it. I'd be like, all right, that sounds fucking great. But this time, let's do the sax thing at the top. And then the vocals come in right after that, okay? And then we'll do the solo. And then Kimok, you will go for a while. Then Al will go for a while. And then let's just do it one more time. And then everyone would be like, okay, yeah. So I go 1, 2. So then we dig in a little bit more. And we didn't do final versions. I basically went back and like once I was done kind of with an idea conducting, we just start something fresh and then kind of work on it until I felt like, okay, we did that. And then I went back in with an engineer and I took like some 20-minute jams and we collapsed them, right? To make it like a listenable, regular 40-minute album. I love 40-minute albums, you know, as far as like just records, you know, but you can date me that way. But, and so like, you know, I'd take a 20-minute jam and brought it down to be like a 5-minute song, you know? And maybe we added some effects or something. And on one of the tunes and a couple of the songs we approached different ways. So like one of them, we did the vocal overdubs afterwards, like months later when they were in Portland. And that was like, we composed that song together through improvisation. But once we had the ideas, then we wrote out the structure and just recorded it. And that was the last thing that we did. And then we did vocals last time, you know, when I had the vocalist in town one time. So each song kind of had a different way of building it, but they all started in the full-on free-form improvisation place. And then, you know, most of them I just collapsed down, except for that last song that's basically we recorded as it is, kind of a pop song, and then added the lyrics later. So yeah, so there's no hard and fast rule. You know, and I think that someday if I get my studio going a little bit more, I could imagine doing more audio for movies and stuff like that, and taking stuff that we've created and maybe editing a little bit to fit a picture, or even, you know, stretching it out in Ableton. I mean, there's like there's no end to what it could be placed with, and especially if it's really just beautiful, cool music. It's like, why not?
Yeah.
Especially if we're stuck in our fucking basements. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry, man. That's those are great thoughts. Yeah, I love them, and thank you so much for sharing. Great ideas.
Totally.
So, if anyone has any question, please, now is the time. Throw up in the comments, and while we wait for people to write down their questions. How big was your biggest ensemble? How many people?
One time I conducted March 4th marching band and I think it was 45-piece band, marching band, and then a 13-piece Afrobeat ensemble. I mean, it was close to 75 people. And it was like directing traffic, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It was definitely like.
How was it?
It was cool. I mean, it was amazing. It wasn't, you know, it might not be for everybody what that moment was, but it was fucking amazing to have. I mean, I was conducting the the Afrobeat band and some guests. And then the marching band marched in from the other side of the room and then got on stage. So it was just like, wow, you know, it was like, it was a spectacle. And the other thing is, one time I conducted 2 stages at once. There were, at a festival, there was stages that were side by side. And it was, you know, basically we drove a truck out into the audience and built a platform on top of this truck, and trading fours with, like, you know, 15 musicians on one stage and like 18 musicians on the other stage. And it was, again, it was, you know, might not be the most beautiful music you've ever heard, but it was something. It was like a Burning Man art project that blew everybody's mind. I mean, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And so I just think, you know, there could be a lot of validity in that type of experimentation, even if it doesn't sound like, you know, a Funkin' A or whatever. It's like, you know, it can be profound and unique.
Yeah, deep,
so,
man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, in contrast to that, and how short do you think it can be an everyone orchestra, the minimum people to join and create conducted improvisation?
I've conducted a band of 4 people. Okay. They're, you know, like a band, where, I mean, I just recently conducted the band Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. They had me sit in during their set, and I took them on like a 6-minute improvisational journey that kind of blew everybody's mind. So it was super fun. And so it can be that small. You know, I used to do this festival called All Good, and it was another one of those festivals where there's 2 stages side by side, and music was just going constantly, and my sets were 30 minutes long. And so it was like, all right, everyone, let's jam now, because we got to get, you know, we got to make a lot of stuff happen in 30 minutes, you know. But I think, like, you know, a band of between 7 and 11 players, depending on how many vocalists and how many horns we have, is kind of my favorite, because in a 90-minute set, everybody can really have a chance to get out there and do something fun. And I can kind of let everybody lead a little bit. And that's part of the magic or the concepts. Let different people lead. And then I'll be the human volume knob and attenuate and take it, you know, facilitate it. So it just has some framework that makes it kind of interesting and fun.
Yeah, nice. I want to geek a little bit more. And
yeah.
I would like to ask you, when you are, you know, conducting and you feel that you know the music is falling apart, do you have any strategy to you know, to get it on, to put all things together?
So the first thing, the strategy is just be dynamic, because usually if it's falling apart, it just hasn't been dynamic. And even if you make it quieter, sometimes, you realize it's not falling apart. It just was too loud. And as soon as it's quieter, everybody's listening in a different way. So that's the very first thing that I'll do, is I'll make it quieter and cause people to interact in a different way. So, you know, what else? The other thing is, drum jam, drum solo. All right. Seriously, you know, let the drums just start to rock. And, it's a root, and it roots everybody. And it's a place where everyone can then go from again, you know. And often, and I don't always go to the drum jam if I feel like it's falling apart, but if I feel like somehow it needs some sort of other kind of focus or attention, bringing it back to drums. And recently I've been putting percussion right next to my conducting rig, so I can get in on that drum jam a little bit and really rock out. And it's a route for me too. It gets me centered and focused.
Nice answer, man. Thank you for sharing.
Cool. Yeah, you bet.
I think we don't have any questions right now. So Graham Haynes just said, I just wanted to say I'm sure we know some of the same musicians in Seattle. I had a band there. Hi, Graham. How are you doing? And so if there is any more questions, do you want to say something that people can follow you, or where people can find about your technique or your what you're doing?
I want to relate a real quick experience that I had when I was in Buenos Aires a month ago, because conducting improvisation is not necessarily pop music. It's not necessarily where it's popular with the kids. It's not, it's got its own niche or whatever. And, the people that are passionate about it. But it's not necessarily any kind of mainstream thing. So the first day when I was just down in Buenos Aires for an IGE site visit, a friend of mine, actually my neighbor here in Portland, has a cousin down there, and he recommended that I go see this band called Pan Percussion.
Right.
And this is Vasquez, right? What's his first name?
Santiago Vasquez.
Santiago Vasquez. And I walk into this place. There's a line of like 1,000 people around the block. And we go to it's this warehouse, just like a fucking airplane hangar. And there's people roller skating around. There's like a beer garden on one side. There's like a giant stage and a huge dance floor. I think it holds about 4,000 people. And people are doing acro yoga and shooting hoops on one side. It's just this crazy, really fun environment. And then Santiago comes out, and the guy is conducting a drum jam, with like 12 drummers, and 2,500 people are there rocking out to him. And it was so inspiring, and it was so fun to see for me, to see something that is people getting embraced by the masses, and it kind of gave me a different type of hope or perspective on what I do. So that I just wanted to say that. And then, being in touch with you, and I'm down there, I'm like, wow, I know some people that are into this type of stuff. And Santiago, I connected with him that night, and he's just a sweetheart, an amazing guy that's got a school where he teaches his conducting.
Yeah.
And apparently, his style of conducting, there's like 200 bands that perform out doing it. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, it's this
Santiago.
Yeah, he does the rhythm and percussion with signs.
That's awesome. Yeah. I can't get. I'm trying to get that book. It's not available right now.
Okay.
But it's cool. Yeah. So I don't know. It's totally different, but similar to what I do. And I loved seeing how he has, created his own thing. And I hope to see him do it in the U.S. sometime soon.
Yeah, man.
And I hope to see ad hoc also.
For sure. It is very inspiring indeed. And what Santiago does in Argentina is incredible, because he really got this community creating. He took this very serious, and he could really create community within Argentina with the conducted improvisation he does. It is very very inspiring indeed. And but for sure we're gonna meet at some point and do some music together, man. So I just want to thank you a lot for participating in this talk, and I really hope you to be safe, and see you soon in Portland or Brazil.
Awesome. Thank you so much, dude. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
And thanks for listening, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you a lot, man. Take care.
Plan to improvise. Plan to improvise.